I'm Whitney.
And I'm Camden. Welcome to Ghosts and Garnets Murder in Idaho.
Ghost walking awesomeness. That's what we're going to talk about today.
Ghost walk.
Guys, it's been a long week, but we are excited to tell you about an adventure we took a couple of weeks ago. I drove up to the Grange and picked up camper.
I knew you were going to say the Grange. Knew it.
And it was the first time that we had gotten to hang out in person with each other in like 4 years almost. And that was awesome. We got to have a sleepover in Lewiston and do spooky things and walk around in the cold and dark alleyways of old-timey Lewiston. Camden wouldn't wear a coat. Frustrated the hell out of me.
They were like my grandmother. And then, you guys, she wouldn't even share her warmth when I needed it.
I would
for
not.
a moment.
I said, just like I would say to my kids, fine, you're not going to bring a coat. I'm not going to share my stuff with you when you get cold.
It wasn't even that cold.
Mm-hmm.
I was fine. Mm-hmm.
It was cold because of the scary ghosties at one point. Actually, I only felt a scary ghostie one time, the very end of the evening.
Me too.
Yeah. So we went up to Lewiston, and I'm going to give you guys a little history about Lewiston, Idaho. Lewiston is actually a place that I've driven past a million times going up to school, because Cam and I both went to U of I, and you have to drive past Lewiston to get to Moscow. And I never went into the actual city of Lewiston. I just drove past the city of Lewiston. I don't think I wanted to go in because it's very stinky. There's a stinky factory situation.
That's the paper.
The paper factory.
The paper mill. Paper factory. Willy Wonka just hanging out around the paper factory.
Okay, fine.
All
I
right.
don't know enough about paper manufacturing to make you happy today. But anyway, it stinks, so I didn't go in. But it wasn't that stinky when we went. There was only like one brief hint of the stink while we were there. And we were outside most of the time. So don't avoid Lewiston because of the stinky. Sometimes it's not there. Anyway, so Lewiston is located where the Snake River and the Clearwater River meet. And it's sort of in a part of the town is in this basin. And then the rest of the town is very hilly, which I was not expecting. And it's bigger than I thought it was, actually. But downtown Lewiston is really cool. It's very cute. And it reminds me a lot of like old Boise. Originally, the inhabitants of this area were the Nez Perce tribe.
You know what the name was?
Of the Nez Perce tribe?
The Nimipu.
I did not know that was their original name.
I just didn't know if you Nimipu. Continue.
Right, well, the first white folks didn't show up until about 1803 when a explorer named David Thompson was looking to set up a fur trading post for the Hudson Bay Company of British North America, which is actually Canada. They don't like us to remind people that the Brits were their bosses for a while. So anyway, they were big into beavers. Now, Thompson wanted to create a white people settlement, and he wanted the Nez Perce tribe's help in setting up like a beaver trapping business. But the head of the local Nez Perce tribes told them that beaver trapping is women's work, and their women were way too busy with important shit to help the white people learn how to trap a beaver. So they were also migrated with the animals and depending on the weather. And so they were not about to hang out all winter in Lewiston to these Canadians with their animal for business attempts. So anyway, that was a big fail, David Thompson. And the next group of outsiders that came through were the Lewis and Clark expedition in October of 1805. They also encountered the people of the Nez Perce tribes. And then when they came back through on their way back east, they stopped there again in the spring of 1806. So the town of Lewiston is supposedly named after Meriwether Lewis. Could be. Although there's a Clarkston right across the river.
Lewiston
and Clarkston. Yes.
Lewis and Clark.
Right.
Point made. Yeah.
Yes. So the town was finally founded in 1861 when a gold rush hit the previous year in Pierce, which is just northeast of Lewiston. And in March of 1863, Lewiston became the capital of the newly created Idaho Territory. Unfortunately, they did not hold on to their capital title very long. I thought they were the capital for a really long time. Apparently, they were only the capital for 1 year.
Yeah.
I feel like maybe some people are holding on to a grudge from 1862 to 1863.
Oh, they're probably not alive anymore, so it's fine.
Their ghosts are haunting the area of Lewiston, pissed off that they're no longer the capital. So the stint of the new territory's capital government was short-lived. When the capital was moved south to Boise in December of 1864, after the gold rush had sort of petered out and there was a big mineral rush in southwestern Idaho, centered in around Idaho City, which is super haunted, and we definitely need to do like a Idaho City. Also, they have a really good like hot springs there.
Yes, they do.
It's like bougie now, and we should just do that.
That's what I heard, yeah.
Yeah, it's super bougie. So that is a little history of Lewiston, and we'll probably talk more about it when we talk about the Ghost Walk, because they went through a ton of historical stuff about Lewiston during the Ghost Walk. I don't even think it was called the Ghost Walk. Was it called the Ghost Walk, or was it called like the historical walk of?
Well, it was an Idaho history tour, but it was called a Ghost Walk.
Oh, okay. Well, we learned lots of history. It was a dark and gloomy night.
It was, and drizzly.
Drizzly. And because Camden is such an expert navigator, I had to go around the same 4 city blocks 6 times before we found a parking spot, because she kept saying, "There's one," after I had already passed a spot.
Side note, she told me not to be a backseat driver. So what's a girl to do?
We did get a spot eventually, though.
We did figure it out.
And then we went and ate.
We did. We went and ate at Barava's restaurant. This is a haunted restaurant and bar. Reports of hauntings at this restaurant include cold spots, a woman's apparition with short hair sitting at the bar after closing, names being called out, and disembodied voices. Rumor says that there was an underground tunnel located underneath the restaurant that has passageways throughout downtown Lewiston. And our waitress's name was Grace.
Hey, Grace. She was very sweet.
Delight. She was a delight. She was telling us stories. She won't even go down into the basement of the restaurant by herself.
No, and she was also saying that she was there one night late and like some glasses flew off a shelf by themselves.
And onto the floor. Instead of falling, like if they had just fallen, they would fall straight down onto the countertop. Yeah. But they completely missed the countertop and flew to the floor.
Terrifying.
Scary.
Yeah, and she said she'd worked there for like 2 years, and we were the first people to ask her if the restaurant was haunted.
We were the first 2 weirdos to ask her if the restaurant was haunted.
We didn't get a lot of spook feeling there, but we also didn't go into the bar, and I think the bar area is the older part, and I think supposedly more like haunted is the bar area. Mm-hmm. Or the basement, because portal to hell. Guys, Lewiston is my worst nightmare. It is a whole series of underground, cavernous basements.
Small, tight ones.
Yes. So scary.
So then we went and met our group for the Idaho History Tour, the Ghost Walk.
Yeah.
we met our tour guide, Gary.
Who was dressed like an old-timey
banker.
Yeah.
With a black hat and a vest. We met him at the Blue Lantern Coffee House.
Super cute, by the way.
So cute. Such a cool building.
Yeah.
Really old. He told us that they have this curved glass window situation. The front of the building, he said that it was shipped over from overseas, and he was asking how we thought it got brought over because they didn't have bubble wrap then.
Oh, yeah. I wasn't paying attention.
It was sawdust. So they packed it between these in like a box sort of thing, but then they just packed it full of sawdust to keep the window because it was insured for $25,000.
I'm glad you were paying attention to this. I was furiously rage texting my 13-year-old because I had gotten a unsatisfactory email from one of his teachers. I had to step back from the ghost walk for a moment to deal with that.
We walked down underneath the coffee shop, and there was a group of about 25 of us.
Yeah, it was a huge group. I was shocked at how many people there were.
I know. I was too, actually. Yeah. So we walked down. It was like a little kitchen almost underneath. And we walked through that and into the basement. And there was a big room that opened up.
It was kind of like a cellar almost, but it just kept going.
Right. So then we walked through this bathroom that basically was like a hallway. Everybody had to go through it to get through to the other side, which opened up into another space and a walkway where we went back to where they shoved coal into this big furnace to create heat for the buildings upstairs back in the 1800s, 1900s.
Yeah, and this is fascinating. They talk about how there's like tunnels under the city of Lewiston, and Gary said they're not really tunnels. They're just like these great big sort of cavernous spaces under each of the buildings. And then on the street, there are these giant openings on the sidewalks in front of each building that sort of look like potholes, like a pothole cover, manhole cover.
Manhole.
And they're really big, and the coal wagons would come through every day and dump the coal through these holes in front of the buildings, and then that's how they would heat the buildings, which is kind of ingenious, but also probably really dirty.
So dirty. And he said that, what was it, kids in 5th and 6th grade, or was it kids who were 5 and 6?
No, kids in the 5th and 6th grade after school.
Okay. After school would go down underneath these buildings into these tunnel-like situations and shovel the coal into the furnaces all afternoon.
Yeah, they would like move the coal into these little stalls, shovel it all into these stalls, and then have to like feed and I think he said that he did it when he was in grade school.
He's not that old, Whitney. He used to sell newspapers.
I'm sure that he said he had to do it.
No, you were still texting. He sold newspapers for 2 cents an hour.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Okay. I was really sure he said he did it.
No, he was very impressed with these kids who did it, though.
Yes, and then he had some opinions on children of this age.
I think that he wanted the 5th and 6th graders of this time period to be down there shoveling the coal after school.
Yeah, I got that feeling
for
too.
many hours.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So then after we saw where all the coal was shoveled, we came back out into this tiny room where all 25 of us crammed in, and he started telling us this story about the ghost that's down there. This ghost really likes it when there's women in the bathroom. He likes women.
He's a creep. The ghost is a creep who likes...
he's a total creep.
He has like a bathroom fetish. He's a fetishist ghost.
Yes.
Yeah.
So he would knock on the door when women were in there. Yeah. That's what they reported, was hearing this really loud...
Yeah, and the doorknob would jiggle.
Yes.
Yeah.
Then he tried to scare us.
Mm-hmm.
He told us the ghost story.
Yes.
About Walter.
Walter is the creepy ghost.
Fetish ghost.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he died in a fight down there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And there was also that like little stairwell situation that he showed us. You remember?
Yeah, it was like a hidden staircase, which was super creepy.
Yeah.
Super dark. But he also told us about the same ghost in another, because this tunnel goes under more than just that coffee house. So the ghost, they thought, was also moving stuff up in a tattoo shop where this girl was working.
She was the owner of it.
Yes. Things would be moved. And so one day she asked our tour guide, Gary, if he had, touched any of her stuff. And he said, no, why would I touch any of your stuff? And she said, oh, I know you wouldn't, but stuff's been moved around. And so then she started getting to the point where she would put tape on the floor, like where her stool was supposed to be.
Mm-hmm. And
she would come in the morning, it would be gone.
Yeah.
Or moved.
Yeah. And then she started telling Walter to fuck off.
And he did.
Yeah. She had had enough of Walter.
You just gotta tell the ghosts.
I acknowledge you. I acknowledge your creepiness. I acknowledge the fact you want to watch me pee. I release you. Move along, Walter.
Move along. Stop scaring the ladies in the bathroom.
Nobody's interested in that. I wonder what kind of fetishization that's called when you want to watch people go to the bathroom.
I've never had the desire to know that.
I don't think I wanted in my search history, but it would be interesting to know.
Yeah.
All right, moving along.
We went next to Morgan's Alley.
Another super cool building. There are all these huge stone, 2 or 3 story, beautiful old buildings.
Right. And this one was actually above Old Town Sushi. I'm sure a lot of people who are familiar with Lewiston will know that. But that restaurant, people were eating when we walked up the stairs.
We really disturbed some people's dinners. 30 of us tromping through the restaurant.
When the guy walking past us said, "Ooh, girl." But when we got upstairs, it was like this huge long hallway with all these really beautiful wood ornate doorways, and it was just really cool. And then it had this huge, beautiful wooden staircase going up the middle of the hallway to another floor. So Gary then was telling us about the presence of the infamous Blue Lady. She has been felt in Morgan's Alley, where we were. She's been witnessed and documented by countless local residents. At first, people thought she was the old madam or a prostitute. While nobody is entirely sure of her identity, the Blue Lady is thought to be a local religious woman, possibly by the name of Mary Spalding, who was displeased with the goings-on at the former saloon and brothel.
Because originally downstairs was a saloon, and then the top 2 floors it was a brothel. And so the men would, get shit-faced. And then there was like a bouncer, and they had to be introduced. Like the bouncer had to know them for them to be able to be let up into the brothel. And so if you were like a stranger coming down from the gold mines and you wanted to hire a prostitute for the evening, if the bouncer didn't know you already, you could not go upstairs.
So you were going to have a lonely night, sir.
Yes.
Since she passed away before the Gentlemen's Club was shut down, it is said that she now stays behind to ensure it stays that way. The Blue Lady is most often seen gracefully gliding up and down the stairs, dressed head to toe in a blue gown with her blonde hair neatly curled in the style of the time. And a lot of the time she's seen as a blue orb. And they had pictures
Yes.
of her that we could see. Did you hear that?
I didn't hear it. I saw you make a face.
I don't know what it was.
It was the Blue Lady. It was Mary Spalding.
Did you keep the business card?
I don't know if I still have the business card. I probably do. And we took a bunch of pictures, so we'll post all of these pictures that Gary showed us on the socials, so you guys can see some of these pictures, because the pictures are really like very cool. And some of them, especially the one of Rapey Walter, is terrifying. That was my scariest one, was the Walter one. So next we went to the county courthouse and to the old jail, which is in the basement, of course, another basement in the county courthouse. And I didn't get a lot of spook factor in this area. Gary said this was the old drunk tank. It was dark and it was a basement and it was
gross.
There was a cell there, but I mean, in the grand scheme of things, it was just a drunk tank and it was in a basement. So it was gross and dark.
Yeah. I think they were just playing on people's fears of being locked in somewhere, tight space, dark.
Yeah. Everybody but me got into the big cell and then Gary shut the door on them. I said, no, thank you, Gary. But so we have I think I have a picture of Camden in the cell that we'll post too. But there's clearly was electricity in the building and they did not turn it on. Like it was just, so we were like flashlighting it around.
Yeah.
And this building was not as old, I think, too. So it didn't the creep factor wasn't really there for me, but it was super interesting. The best part is what we're going to talk about now, which is the last place that we went is, it's called the Kettenbaugh building. It's this beautiful old building, kind of south of 5th Street in Lewiston. And it was built in 1907. And it's called the Kettenbaugh because the guy who built it his last name was Kettenbaugh. So there was in the bottom floor, like a large store and then room for some smaller businesses. And then on the upper floor, it was originally the Kettenbaugh European Hotel. And it's just a 2-story, but it's enormous. I mean, I think there were
22 rooms.
Yeah. So
upstairs.
So it was really, it's not a small building and the rooms were large rooms. In the 20s and 30s, it became the Princess Hotel and it was a bordello, which is old timey fancy for whorehouse. But, that's what it was in the 20s and 30s. It was said that during that time, the ladies of the night would stand in the bay windows, advertise.
If they were available.
But the city got in trouble because the Navy came in during World War II and they were training new recruits at the Northern Idaho College of Education, which is now Lewis Clark State College. And they were using that as a training facility. And the ladies were distracting the young men. So that got shut down.
Who would have thought?
Who would have thought? While we were there were a couple of ladies there who are paranormal investigators. And they are part of a group called SLASH, which stands for Surrounding Lewiston Area Spirit Hunters. And their names were Becky and Grace. And they were awesome. Hello, Becky and Grace. They were a fount of information. And they had all kinds of cool gadgetry. And they were part of Gary's tour. They go to the Kettenbaugh on the nights that Gary does tours so that people can kind of explore the building and they can go through some of the hauntings and experiences that they've had within that building. And they have been doing it, I think, about 12 years. And they go around all over Idaho and go into homes and businesses and abandoned buildings. And so the Kettenbaugh building, Becky says, is one of their favorites. They get lots of activity there. They get lots of banging and knocking on walls and doors closing by themselves. A lot of whispering into recorders. Their recording devices that they don't hear when they're there, but when they play it back later, they hear it. They also have flashlights that they communicate with spirits with there. The spirits can turn the flashlights on and off. Lots of cold spots and then heavy aroma of roses is something that people have smelled a lot while they were there. So we kind of wandered around for a little bit and then we went into this room, all of us, and Gary turned on this, it was an app. He had one of the girls in the group hold his phone, placed these devices on the floor, and then he would ask people questions. And apparently there was a sex worker who lived in that room, and there were 2 of her customers that fought over her, and one of them caught her with another one, or she got pregnant by one of them.
She got pregnant by one of them. She was having intimate relations with both of them.
Yeah.
She ended up getting pregnant, and the other one found out, and an altercation ensued.
And he beat her to death.
Yes.
Yeah, in that room. So I didn't ask the particulars about how this equipment works because that's not the kind of girl I am. I was just along for the ride. But it was interesting that the cell phone picked up different colored dots, which Gary said represented different spirits in the room. I don't know how the machine differentiates between the 30 of us that were in the room.
Well, it's EVP, and also alive people give off a different energy.
Oh,
so
okay.
It's not picking up that energy. Yeah. And so when they were showing those dots, it was interesting to me because there was a rumor that she was pregnant with twins. And so you would see one dot come into the screen.
Yeah.
And then you would see two more dots together come into the screen.
Yeah, that was creepy.
Super odd.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this lady next to Camden who loved Camden would lean over and whisper, she was pregnant with twins.
True. She did love me.
She did.
She hugged me.
Yes.
I am lovable. What can I say?
You are. You're a delight. I tell you all the time. We asked them about some of their experiences there. They said there have been times where like doors will be open and they'll slam shut. They talked about different presences that they feel every time that they go there. There's like a very angry old man presence that they feel all the time there, and they think that he's responsible for the door slamming.
And they won't go into that room.
No, and Becky won't go into that room by herself. And we asked her to bring us into the room. And you guys know that I'm like not really sure about stuff like this, but I will tell you when we walked into that room, I did feel like a very noticeable heaviness on my chest. Like it felt like there was some dark shit in that room. It made me very uncomfortable.
Yeah. I would have liked to explore that room with less people in it because
Agreed.
It was hard to like, but yeah, I definitely agree.
Yeah.
Also, side note, did you know that that Albert Einstein believed in ghosts?
I'm not saying I don't believe in ghosts. I definitely think that we've talked about it before. I am a big believer that bad energy hangs out in places where bad shit happens. I absolutely am a believer in that because I have not personally experienced things like seeing a ghost. It's just one of those things that I'm more skeptical about. I am open to the idea of it. I think there's a lot of people who feel like I do, like, oh, I'm not really sure.
Yes.
But I'm telling you, I did feel something in that room. I did feel like a malevolent presence in that room. It made me very uncomfortable. And I don't know how these ladies do it because I asked Becky if they had gone to, because I am obsessed with the Olds Penitentiary, and we'll at some point do like a live show or something from there and maybe we'll ask Becky and Grace to come down and do it with us because they've been there, I think 3 or 4 times and said they get like a lot of activity. When they're there, they get a lot of like energy sucked from their devices, even if they have brand new batteries in them. And so I thought that was super interesting. And that was definitely my favorite part of the tour, was being able to like see how they do their investigating.
Yeah, it was my favorite part too. And I just love that building was big enough that we could all walk around and just kind of like get our own feelings from it and just kind of explore it on our own a little bit.
Yeah, it was not cramped like in the tunnels, and you didn't feel like you just want, like when we were in the tunnels, I just wanted to get out. It made me too many people. It was very confined, and I don't do well underground anyway.
We didn't know that. None of us knew.
I was very brave. I went into 3 basements that night.
You're the bravest girl.
I know. We asked what the creepiest thing was that had happened there, and they said that they were recording one night. None of them heard anything. I think she said there were like 2 or 3 of them in the building. Nobody heard anything, but they had all of their equipment on. And then when they got home and they played the recording equipment, they heard this group of children singing. Now, this was like in the middle of the night, and none of them heard a sound.
Not a sound. And it's a vacant
Nobody's
building.
in this building. This is a rundown. Nobody can live in there.
There were no children.
There was not a choir of children hanging out in one of the rooms singing a song. And they found out later that the song is from Les Mis. It's a Les Mis song.
Yes. And they gave us permission to put
Yes.
this on our podcast so
Yeah.
that you guys can hear it. And it is the creepiest, coolest, creepiest thing
It is.
ever.
And they have a Facebook page, guys. It's / like SLASH. They have all kinds of like videos from the Kettenbach and of other places. The song is the Song of Angry Men from Les Mis. A person on one of the tours, when they played this recording for them, was able to tell them what song it was because they didn't know originally. So we are going to play you this.
The room I'm sitting in is so dark right now. It's so scary. Hello.
I don't know about you, but if I had not heard anything and then I went home and turned on a recording device and heard that, I would be so freaked out. Like, I don't know if I could go back to that building.
Yeah, it's chilling to say the least. And it starts out, I mean, it sounds like maybe like 1 or 2 kids, and then it
Yes.
sounds like there's more. And then what was so interesting, after they played us that so we could hear it, they showed us on their computer when they had gone to the Kettenbach and they had used the flashlights
Yeah.
to try to communicate. And so they had the flashlights off and you could see them. They were set across the room in a doorway, sort of, and they were turned off. They were talking to the spirit, and they asked, you know, if it was a child, if you're a child, turn the light on. And the light turned on and then turned back off. And then they asked, are you older than 10? Nothing, you know.
Yeah.
And then they said, are you younger than 10? Turn on the light. And it turned on. And they asked if there was anybody else there, any other kids, and it turned on. And then they asked if they were friends with the other children's spirit, and he did not turn the light on.
That makes me so sad, though. Like, if
Well,
you're going
maybe he was
to
just-
be stuck in the Kettenbach and you're a kid, like, at least be friends with the other kid ghosts, you know?
Well, maybe he's just living his life.
Maybe he's just friends
Well,
with a
death.
mean old man. Living his death. Did you really just say that? I'm dead. I am dead right now.
Well, because I said maybe he's just living his life, and I'm like, well, that doesn't really work now, does it?
I love it so much.
Okay. Anyway, it was super interesting. You guys can find that stuff on their page. They were so awesome and accommodating, and they've been so supportive of us, which
Yeah.
is awesome. It's just been so great. So anyway, go check them out.
Yes, definitely do. And we are going to post all kinds of pictures. We also got to see, because the town is where these two rivers converge. It used to flood before they built a reservoir. It used to flood every year. And there were like something like 30 bars on Main Street.
39.
39 saloons on Main Street. And there are pictures of people in the bars, and they're standing 3 feet of water. And I love it. So we're going to post those too. We got to see some of those. And so that was really funny. They just sort of expected every year. They were just, you know, if you're going to go to the bar, you're going to stand in the, you know, floodwaters.
If I lived in the 1920s, I would probably need me a whiskey every day too. So
If you like history, it was super interesting. And Gary is going to be retiring. I don't know who he's going to pass his old-timey banker hat to, but I hope it continues. And also, I think during warmer months, there's like a trolley tour or something
yes.
also that they do.
So if you just Google Idaho history tours in Lewiston, Idaho, you will find it and you can get yourself some tickets.
But it was super fun, and we got to spend 24 hours together, you know?
It was amazing.
It was amazing. I drove up in a nightmare blizzard situation.
Actual blizzard. Like, I called her 3 times to make sure she was okay because the roads outside of Grangeville were shutting down with wrecks and snow drifts.
I went over Whitebird Hill, which is this massive, I don't even know how many miles long uphill right before you get to Grangeville. When I was coming down the back side, there were like 10 semis that had gone off the road into pastures. I mean, it was just craziness. But I made it and we had a blast. So hopefully we can do something like that soon. We want to do, there's like an old tuberculosis hospital that is now a hotel.
Yes.
And I think it's in Gooding. We want to stay there, and you can book like the whole place.
We are going to stay there.
Yes, we're going to stay there. So
I'm so scared.
I actually am scared to do it. Like I think
I am scared too, but we have to.
No, I'm excited to do it, but I am scared to do it. I don't like the idea of sleeping in. There's something about old hospitals that is just, ugh.
Yeah, it's going to be scary. No question.
Anyway, so that was our ghost tour situation. And Camden kept looking at me saying, what is happening? What is happening? What are we doing? What is happening?
Well, because to be clear, it was probably more of a history tour than a ghost tour until we got to the Kentenbot. And then I stopped saying, what are we doing? What is happening? I knew at that point. I felt like we had entered a portal into another world.
Well, and also it started at like 7, and that is late for us.
It was waiting.
It was 2 hours long, and so we're like, oh man, is this worth staying? Do we go back to the hotel?
So, I'm so glad we did, but it did cut into my nighty night. That is no lie.
No lie. But it was good. You guys should check it out. It was very interesting.
So I'm going into this Idaho. Pretty cold.
Good. I'm glad that it's cold.
I know. I can tell because I did read the first little bit and I'm like, oh, Whitney. All right. So, Idaho.
I found the Library of Congress archives, and it has all of these old newspapers from all over the country, starting way back in like the 1700s. And this article is from the Lewiston Teller, which was the Lewiston newspaper back in the day. And it's from October 10th, 1901.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Miss Amelia A. Barr tells the readers of the Ladies' Review of Reviews that men are much more contemptible and useless in their celibacy than are women. An old maid, she says, can generally make herself of service to someone. At any rate, she never descends to such depths of ennui and selfishness as do the old bachelors who loll about on club sofas or who dawdle contentedly at afternoon teas. An old maid may be troublesome in church business or particular in household affairs, but it takes an old bachelor to quarrel with waiters and grumble everyone insane about the dinner menu. The unmarried woman is becoming every year more self-reliant and more respectable and respected, and the unmarried man more feminine and contemptible. What is here said about the male celibate is from a woman's viewpoint and just a mite exaggerated, but it contains a large measure of truth, and the notable exceptions only accentuate the rule. One of the first commandments to Adam and Eve was to multiply and replenish the earth. In dodging this commandment with promise, the man seems to have brought down upon him a double measure of the primeval penalty. Penalty.
Amelia is a bad bitch. She was way ahead of her time. That is a bold statement in 1901.
She is a Snarkosaurus Rex. If I have ever heard one.
I love it. I love it. And what kind of the Ladies' Review of Reviews? That's the stupidest name for a newsletter you've ever heard.
First, I'm like, am I stupid or is it stupid? Ladies' Review of Reviews.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. No, these, and you know what's so funny about these? This newspaper, in every single edition, on the front page, it has like the comings and goings of the residents of Lewiston. So it'll be like Mr. and Mrs. So-and-so traveled by train to Washington yesterday and will return on Friday. And
oh my God, it's like the gossip column.
Yeah, but it's just like Mr. Walters went to the grain store in Grangeville, and is back now. I mean, really, there's no interesting information at all about it. It's just who's in town. And it's like, if you're leaving, do you call the newspaper and say, hey, I'm going to head out for a couple days?
Maybe.
Print it so everyone knows where I am?
Then I can be burglarized. Burgled.
Burgle is such a weird word, burgle.
It is.
And burglar is a weird word.
I don't like it.
Burglar.
As we leave on this ghostly note, I'm going to tell you, do you know that there's different types of ghosts?
No.
There are.
Okay. Tell me.
There's poltergeist,
which... Tell me the difference, though. Do you know?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I'm trying here.
Okay.
I'm trying here. Poltergeist.
Okay.
Noisy ghosts. They can make things move around in your house.
Okay.
Funnel
ghosts.
Funnel, like a funnel cake, are usually found in old buildings and can be a shape of light.
Ooh, maybe an orb, perhaps.
They're usually trying to visit a loved one.
Oh, okay.
The same goes for orbs, which are balls of light. And some ghosts are called wisp ghosts. They're just wisps.
I feel like you'd be a poltergeist.
Yeah, I'd be a poltergeist.
Yeah, you would. You're gonna poltergeist the hell out of me so you die.
Okay.
Sure of it.
If people don't do with my body what I want done to my body.
No, not the Snow White.
I want to be Snow Whited. I want to be in a glass case above ground that's not locked, so that in case I come back to life, I can just open the glass door. What is the issue here? And I told Jacob, if he doesn't do this for me, I am going to haunt him.
Did you tell him, though, that I got you to agree that if your ear falls off of your body, that we're allowed to bury you at that point?
I haven't told him yet because I still want to scare him with my haunt. Because he gets very scared very easily.
I think that the concern that we have is that you'll start to stink and rot. And we would have to see it. So I feel like if an ear falls off, that's a good indication you're not coming back.
What I am telling you is at least once a year, I read and find an article that talks about somebody being buried alive or being on the autopsy table and being alive at least once a year. So I'm just saying,
where are you finding these periodicals? Where are you finding this? Because this sounds like it's written by a cuckoo bird.
Well, like on BuzzFeed and like on the internet, which don't you know that this is a direct quote from Abraham Lincoln? If it's on the internet, it must be true.
Unless you get in trouble by the mob, then you're not going to get buried alive.
Well, you don't know my life.
I think I do.
Well, all I know is I've told everyone that if I don't get my wishes, I will haunt you, and I will not haunt you like a nice ghost. I will haunt you like the terrors of your deepest, darkest nightmares.
Fine, but if your ear falls off, you're going in the ground. I've had enough.
And can we just... Well, then you can cremate me. I can't go in the ground.
Okay, agreed.
And then you can turn me into a necklace. Actually, I want to be a tree. So.
Yeah, I already know that you want to be a tree. I also want to be a tree.
Thank God.
But our families are going to have to figure out how to like either pot us so they can take us with them, or agree that they can never move out of whatever house they plant the tree in. And neither can their descendants.
Mm-hmm. And they really need to have a green thumb. Because I can't die twice. No, thank you.
On that note, folks.
We hoped you enjoyed hanging out with us today.
Thank you so much. And we hope you enjoyed our spooky adventure time.
Thank you so much. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, guys.